What if Deku had the Omnitrix's power? Welcome back to Nothing But Anime. Everyone, we're on part 12 of the What If Deku Had the Omnitrix's Power series. If you like what you're watching, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Izuku uttered out as he started to wake up. He opened his eyes and saw that he was in an unknown room. He grabbed his head, suffering from a headache. My head. What happened? Izuku thought as he tried to remember what happened, and then the memories from the USJ, the villains, the Nomu, Shigaraki, the Warp villain, and Kevin came back to him in a rush. Okay, so the USJ was attacked and villains showed up to kill All Might. One thing led to another and I fought that thing with Heat Blast, but I was different. Was that OFA in effect? The last thing I remember is that Nomu thing falling to the ground after my attack, and then Izuku thought before he remembered his mom showing up, and then All Might getting attacked by that guy, and then I was abducted. Is everyone okay? Izuku thought before he got up and saw that he was in a dark room. Hello? Is anyone here? Izuku asked out loud in the room, but he got nothing. He then heard something shift behind him. Hello? Izuku said as he turns around to investigate on what was behind him. USJ. Same time as Izuku started to wake up, back at the USJ, the police and paramedics arrived as the attack ended that just happened. The other teachers arrived there to overlook things. The students and the injured were escorted out of the building and to arrest the remaining villains there. Okay, from what we have gathered here, only 3 have escaped and I believe that they were the main ones. The only injured here are the teachers that were superioring here. 1 girl with acid burns on her hands, 2 boys with second-degree burns on their bodies, 1 with a cracked rib and spleen, and 1 student has been kidnapped, the cop said to Midnight. I see and I know who the student is, Izuku Midoriya. He was kidnapped by the few that attacked All Might after he assumed that they were villains. Midnight said. I see. Has the principal said anything about this? The cop asked. No, all he's done is talking to this woman who broke in here somehow. Midnight said as the 2 look over and see that Nizu, who was in a white suit of some kind, talking to Inko, who was in a similar suit. I see, the cop said. Nizu and Inko were talking. Are you sure that you saw 3 mercenaries with alien tech on them, Inko? Nizu asked. I know what I saw, Nizu. They were hired, Nizu. Which means that, Inko said, but Nizu cut her off. Vilgax is still hurt. We must take this opportunity now. There won't be another like this, Nizu said. I know, but how do we get to them in time? Inko asked. I have a way to locate Izuku and the Omnitrix in no time. And I have the equipment that we need and the thing to get us there, Nizu said as Inko looked at him for a bit before her eye went wide. Nizu. Don't tell me you still have, Inko said. I still hear her. I've been keeping her fresh and clean throughout these years, Nizu said as Inko hugged him. Thank you, Inko said. No problem, Nizu said as he hugged back. The 2 broke apart as Nizu went to the students and other teachers there. Sir, what's going on? And who's that? Midnight asked and points to Inko. This is Inko Midoriya, a close friend of me and the mother of the child who was kidnapped, Nizu said as everyone that heard went into shock. What? Was he taken by the villains? Uraraka, Momo/Tsu/Kanoko and Lucy asked. No. He wasn't. He was abducted by someone we know, Nizu said in a dark tone which scared everyone there, especially the teachers present there. They saw their boss angry a few times which terrified them, but this time was different. By SS someone you know, Present Mike stuttered out in fear. Yes, and we must hurry. If we don't, today might be Izuku's last day alive, Nizu said as everyone went into shock. Last day alive? Sir, aren't you overreacting? I mean, this person can't be that evil, Cementos said. I wish it was like that, Cementos. This person, no. This being of pure evil will do anything to get what Izuku has. And will do anything to get what he wants. Even if it's at the cost of someone else's life, Nizu said. How do you know all this? Midnight asked as Nizu sighed. Me and Nizu because he's the one who gave him that scar over his eye, Inko said as every teacher and staff member there was shocked. This person who has Izuku was the one who gave their boss the scar over his eye. We've wasted enough time. We must leave now. Knowing him, he'll take Izuku to his ship and extract it there. We need to locate it and fast, Nizu said as the 2 venture plumbers start to leave when Midnight stops them. But sir, what about us? Midnight asked. I want you all to guard the USJ and oversee things here. I'll return with Midoriya ever soon, Nizu said. They resumed walking. Sir. They stopped and turned to see Lucy running to them. Let me assist you in this mission, Lucy said. No, man. I need you to stay here and overlook on things, Nizu said, but Lucy stood her ground. Sir, I'm not asking as a student of UA High. I am asking you as a fellow plumber, Lucy said. Eventually, Nizu sighed. Kids these days. All right, cadet man. I authorize you to assist us in this rescue. But by doing so, you are aware that at your own risk and know the dangers of what might and will happen in this mission, Nizu asked as Lucy nodded. I do, sir, Lucy said. Very well. Now let's head to U.A's outer hangar. I have what we need stashed there, Nizu said as the 3 plumbers leave to go get ready. Wait. The trio stop and see that Uraraka was running to them. What is it, Miss Uraraka? Nizu asked. I want to help save Izuku, Achiko said. No, Nizu said. But sir, Uraraka was trying to plead but Nizu cut her off. No, Miss Uraraka. This mission is live or death at most death. There's a chance that we won't make it back. So please, stay here with the others, Nizu said. No, Uraraka bursted out. Achiko. Lucy was trying to talk to Achiko but she was cut off. No, I want to help rescue Izuku. He saved Mai and Tsu doing the entrance exam and risked losing his chance to come here. I want to repay him of that. I want to save him this time. Please, let me save him, Achiko shouted with tears falling down her eyes. The trio of plumbers looked at her and Inko smiled at her. Is he really that important to you, young lady? Inko asked. Yes, he is. He's my hero, Uraraka said while nodding her head. All right, you can come. But you stick with us at all times. Do you understand? Inko asked. Yes, ma'am, Uraraka said. All right, let's go. We've wasted enough time as it is, Inko said as the 3 plumbers and hero in training left to the hangar outside U.A's main campus. Unknown room. Hello, Izuku said again out loud in the room he was held in. He walked around the room to see a bed and toilet in it. To him, he assumed that this was a room that was like in a prison. Izuku continued to walk around until he spotted something on the floor. He saw a piece of long wrapping on the floor. It connected and led below the bed. Izuku followed the wrapping to the bed. Hello, Izuku said as the wrapping somehow shook and it was pulled back to the bottom of the bed. Izuku bent down to see what was under the bed. Is anyone down here? Izuku asked as 2 sets of eyes opened and glowed to him. Izuku was startled by that and jumped backwards on his butt. What the? Izuku yelled as he heard shifting under the bed. He looked down and went a bit closer to see what was under the bed. He looked down and saw 2 figures. He saw a little girl who looked mummified as her face was completely covered in bandages. She has purple eyes with purple pupils. Her hair was black and in a bob cut. She had a golden tiara on her head with a snake on it. She was wearing white rags that looked old and dirty which was tied with a black slash around her waist, and she had golden wristbands on her. She was hugging a girl who had looked like a female teenage werewolf. She had gray fur, a long flowing mane which was tied in a ponytail with white bangs on the end, and a large bushy tail with 3 sharp claws on each hand and foot. Her nose was noticeable with light gray fur surrounding her nose and mouth, and dark gray fur on areas of her face where the light gray wasn't. Her eyes were full purple and his ears pointy and pointing upward. She was muscular and bigger than he was. She was wearing purple rags and had white wrapping on her legs, feet and wrist. Grr! The werewolf girl was growling at Izuku, thinking that he was their enemy. Whoa, calm. I'm not going to hurt, Izuku said while putting his hands in front of them. Sickle? Pumvi Skaxolo. The mummified girl said to the werewolf girl, but Izuku didn't understand what she said. What? Izuku asked as he didn't understand what she just said. The Omnitrix beeped. A green energy wave went off from it and throughout the room. Don't worry. I won't let this thing hurt you, the wolf girl said in English. What? I can understand you now? Izuku asked as the 2 horror-looking girls looked at him with wide eyes. What? How did you do that? The wolf girl asked. Did what? Izuku asked, confused. Speak in Aner Transilian, the wolf girl asked. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to hurt you, Izuku said. And how do I believe you? The teen asked with narrow eyes. I would have if I couldn't feel that you're not evil, Izuku said. Okay. I'll believe you for now, the teen said as the 2 horror-looking girls come out of under the bed. So where am I? What is this place? Izuku asked. You're on the ship of the evilest, vilest, most sinister being in the known galaxy, the wolf teen said with a venom and hate in her tone as she growls. Calm down, AC. Don't let your emotions get to you like last time, the mummy girl said while holding the wolf girl's hand. Oh wait, did you say the evilest being in the galaxy? Izuku asked. Yes. Oh, and who's that? Izuku asked. His name is... The mummy girl was about to answer him when the door opens and the 3 people who kidnapped him opened the door and came. Okay, brat. Come with us or we have to get rough with ya, the one with the metal claw said to Izuku. The girls huddled together as Izuku moved in front of them. Who are you guys? Why'd you kidnap me? And why'd you attack All Might? Izuku asked to the trio but asked the last question to the guy in the sliver gray suit. He attacked first. Said something about a villain or something like that. The gray-wearing suit said in a voice that Izuku noticed. Why is his voice so familiar? Izuku thought. Wapensi Waxavo Timo Belzis. Thaxap Wix, the one in the other helmet, said in a strange voice. Yeah. Keep your pants in a hose, the claw one said as he shot Izuku with a laser into the abdomen. Hey, you can't do that, the mummy girl yelled as she started to hit the one who shot him. Scut, and the other helmet wearing one yelled as he strikes the mummy girl across the face, sending her flying to the bed. Hey, don't you dare hurt Shurh. The wolf girl yelled out as she blindly charges to the trio in a rage and was about to attack them when the one in the gray suit stepped forward. Sorry kid, but this is for your own good, he said as he threw a contraption to her mouth and the contraption opened and leached to her mouth. The wolf girl fell to the ground and started to try and pry the trap open, A/N. Hey, a rhyme. Klaxaf zo fup. The one in the other helmet said as he points to Izuku who was holding his stomach. Yeah, what do you think I'm doing? The claw guy asked in sarcasm as he went to Izuku and picked him up as they started to leave the room. Izuku looked back at the girls and could see they were hurt and scared. The four went down a hallway filled with robots that looked the same. Izuku felt something sinister as they approached a large metal door. The door opens and the four enter into a room with the same robots from the hallway and drones that were floating in the air. The claw guy threw Izuku to the floor hard. Lord Vilgax, we've brought the payload as you requested, the claw guy said as Izuku looked up and his eyes went wide with the pupils shirking. He saw a humanoid creature with a face resembling that of an octopus. He had tentacles dangling in the front of his face, like a beard. His skin was pale green with yellowish spots on his face and tentacles. He didn't have a nose and a visible ear. He had red eyes. He was burly and had a mask covering his mouth. He wore a black and red-brownish armored suit and attached to the armor were shoulder and leg pads. He also had metallic gloves with small fingers as well as reddish-brown cylinders-like objects piercing his arms. His armor was spiked at the shoulder and arm pads. He had green sacs on the sides of his head. His mouth was attached to the sacs by a respirator. You're the guy from my vision, Izuku said in fear. At least we meet. The being that has caused me so much trouble, the being said in a sinister tone. Who are you? Izuku asked. I am Vilgax, and I have come for the Omnitrix. The being now named Vilgax declared as Izuku's eyes went wide even farther. Oh man, back at UA with the rescue team. Nizu and Inko were walking together to an abandoned hangar just outside UA's walls as Lucy and Achiko followed them. Sir, are you sure we should be here? Uraraka asked, slightly scared by how the area looked. I am sure, Miss Uraraka, and besides I'm in charge of the school, so I have authority here, Nizu said as they arrived to the hangar. We're here, Nizu said as he went to a sign that was hanging loosely by the door. He moves the sign away and reveals a button under the sign. He presses it and the ground starts to move until it starts to descend into the ground. The four go down into lower levels until they come to a complete stop as they enter a large hidden room. The four start to walk around the room as Inko and Nizu look around and open different shelves as different weapons were in them but not the ones they were looking of. They continue to look around the room of some time until Uraraka's patience ran out. Okay, that's it. I'm not taking another step until you guys tell me what's going on. Why are we here? What are you looking of and why aren't we going to rescue Izuku? Uraraka asked. Inko and Nizu opened two more shelves and went into them. We're looking of something that'll help us big, Inko said as she puts on a set of high-tech goggles. And that is? Lucy asked. Well, it's kind of complicated, Nizu said. Why? Uraraka asked. Let's just say, Inko said before she pulled out a large cannon-looking pistol with a blue energy on it. We were plumbers before we retired but we were no ordinary plumbers back then, Nizu said as he pulls out a set of twin blasters. Whoa, Uraraka uttered out at the sight of the weapons. Now that we have the equipment we needed. Now for the ride, Nizu said as they carried the weapons to another room. They reached to another door and Nizu pulled out a remote from his pocket and pressed the button on it. The door opens as the four look in the room to see what they were going into to save Izuku. They looked around until Lucy and Uraraka's eyes landed on something in the middle of the room. It was an orange truck with Max's Plumbing written on it. Where's the thing that'll help us get to Izuku? Uraraka asked as Nizu chuckled. That is the vehicle that we'll take to get to young Izuku, Nizu said as him and Inko went to the truck and started to put the weapons in it. That's it. The two-teen girl yelled in shock. Yes, now get in so we can go and find Izuku, Nizu said as he got into the vehicle in the driver's seat. The two girls were just standing there as Inko got into the vehicle as well. Well, are you two going to standing there or are you going to coming in this truck and save Izuku? Inko asked as the girls snapped out of their stance and ran to the truck. Back to Izuku. The being known as Vilgax was looking at a screen with Izuku's body on it and a DNA image on it with the Omnitrix on it. To think that the Omnitrix was on a child. And for it to be used for heroics. Disgusting, Vilgax said as he looks at the screen in front of him. Hey, I've used the watch for the purpose of good, Izuku said as he was bounded to a machine that was shaped as a ring. It held Izuku by his feet and right hand with blue energy but his left arm was inside a cylinder so he couldn't reach of the Omnitrix, even if he wanted to. Vilgax starts to walk to Izuku. What you hold is the key to a power struggle so ancient and so vast that it is beyond your understanding, Vilgax said before walking back to the screen and looks at Izuku's DNA. It would appear that the Omnitrix is bonded to your own DNA and your DNA has somehow changed the genetic coding to it, giving it a hint boost in power as it gives a new form, Vilgax said, fascinated by Izuku's DNA. Yes, I can picture this. An entire army, each in the command of their own Omnitrix and with your own DNA, and all in my command. I'll be unstoppable. I will rule the universe. And the only thing standing between me and my destiny is you, Vilgax said. Well, good luck. My quirk is something you can't have. Same thing goes for the watch, Izuku said. Oh, trust me, child. I'll get what I want. Vilax said as the floor under Izuku opens up and severely tools rose up from the floor. Vilgax turned around to the mercenaries that were standing there. Your work is done. Your payment will be handed to you by one of my minions. Now leave. Vilgax yelled as the three start to leave the room, but the gray helmet wearing stopped and turned to Izuku and looked at him of a bit before eventually leaving the room. Back with the rescue team, the door to the hangar opened up and the truck drove out it and into the forest around the school. That weapon that Inko took is keyed into Vilgax's biosignature. Hopefully, it'll be enough to take him out for good this time, Nizu said as Inko pressed a button on the truck's cabinet, and a digital map appeared onto the windshield. This time, Uraraka asked, a bit afraid. What's that, Auntie? Lucy asked as she watches the map with a green dot on it. It's a GPS. It's locked onto the watch's signal. Uraraka, can you navigate to where Izuku is? Inko asked as she got out of the seat and went to the back to the weapons. Sure. Uraraka said. The map zoomed in and Uraraka noticed something on the map. Sir, the map says that Izuku is not too far away from us. In fact, he's still on UA grounds, Uraraka said as Nizu looked at the map. Of course, those mercs could never gone that far in some short time. Okay. Tell me how far Izuku is, Nizu asked. Yeah. He's on the southwest side of the school grounds, Uraraka said. It's not that far, huh? If I'm right, it's only a few minutes away from where we are. Hold on to something, Nizu said as he takes a sharp left turn and barrels down a route. Back to Izuku. Izuku was trying to break the cylinder that was holding the watch as a prison as Vilgax looks at him. Prepare for takeoff. Once we are in orbit, I will finally have the pleasure of destroying this miserable planet. Once and of all, Vilgax threateningly said to Izuku. Back with the rescue team, the team was driving down a hill as they see a large spaceship and it looked like it was about to take off. There's the ship, Lucy said. We have to get aboard that ship, Nizu said as the two girls looked at him. Aboard? But how? Uraraka asked. Nizu just smirks as he presses a button on the steering wheel, and the truck shakes a bit before it changes completely. It spouted wings and the wheels disappeared and the front of it changed into something else. The truck changed into a small orange and white spaceship. Hold on, Nizu yelled as the ship blasts forward to the ship, ready to ram in it. In the ship, Vilgax was holding a tool that electrified into a blue blade and stands in front of Izuku. He walks to the boy as he struggles to break free and positions the blade over Izuku's arm, ready to cut it off. Vilgax was about to do it when he heard a horn go off. The wall suddenly busts open and the small ship goes into the room and crashes into Vilgax. The ship rams him into a wall and reverses as the alien slowly gets up. Inko with the large pistol and Nizu with his twin blasters jump out of the ship and take aim onto Vilgax. Warning. Hull breach. Power surge. One of the robots announced as electricity surged around the room. Get your claws of my son Vilgax, Inko yelled as the pistol charges up. MOM? Mr. N is you? Izuku yelled in surprise at the sudden appearance of his mother and school's principal. Vilgax gets up and sees the two plumbers. Midoriya, rodent, Vilgax said before Inko fires the pistol and hit Vilgax, sending him through the metal wall. Inko drops the pistol and runs to Izuku as Nizu runs to a computer. The girls inside the ship get out to see what was going on. Mom, you know this guy? Izuku asked in shock while noticing Lucy and Uraraka. Inko was pulling on the cylinder that held Izuku. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I didn't want this to happen to you. I know it's a lot to take in, but I'll explain later, Inko said before she noticed electricity surging onto the cylinder that the Omnitrix was held in. Izuku notices too and starts to feel discomfort as he groans. Izuku starts to change into XLR-8, but he never touched the watch. Hey, XLR-8 grunted out before he changed into Diamond Head. What's going? Diamond Head could only say before groaning in more discomfort before changing into Wildmutt. Roar! Wildmutt roared. The power surge must be affecting the watch, Nizu said before Izuku changed once more but into 4 arms. Thanks to the utter strength of 4 arms, the cylinder that was holding him broke, freeing him and allowing Izuku to break free of the energy binds that held his right hand. The ship took off with a smoke trail coming off it as 4 arms lifted the trap he was in and threw it to the other side of the room. Lucy turns and sees multiplied drones entering the room and open fire onto the intruders. Look out! Lucy yells as everyone took cover but Izuku as he dodges the lasers with his left arm. He went of a punch but starts to change again as his skin goes green and fluidly as 3 robots pass through him and start to melt. Man, Goop said as he looks at his body before he was hit by 1 robot. Goop puts his hand on the head of it and starts to melt it as it starts to fall to the ground. Izuku jumps off it and lands on another one before he changes again and into Upgrade and merges with the robot he was on. Try picking on someone your own size, Upgrade yells before spinning and cutting through 2 robots with his new saw blades-like edges. Izuku continues to cut through robots as Lucy smashes some with her mud hammers, while Inko blasts some with one of Nizu's blaster with Uraraka making a few float with her quirk and making the shooting easier of Inko. The ship starts to fall as the claw guy falls out the ship when an explosion happened as he had a few crystal shards in him. Nizu had a drill-like tool with him as he uses it to drill into a drone's body and caused it to go out of control. Inko, we should get control of the ship, Nizu yelled as he ran to the ship's controls. Right? Inko yelled back to him as she shoots a few more drones. You can fly a spaceship? Upgrade asked before he was tackled by a drone into the chest. I don't think I can get more surprised anymore today, Achiko said. While the teens were fighting off the drones, Nizu and Inko were on a computer and started typing onto the control to prevent the ship from crashing. As they typed, Vilgax crawled out of the hole he was blasted into and grabs Inko and Nizu by the collars. Vilgax threw Nizu to the ship he came into and he threw Inko in the hole they made as they crashed into. Inko was about to get up when she saw Vilgax's foot going to her and ready to step on her as she activates Get Quirk and makes a pushes the foot from her. AUNTY/MRS Midoriya/INKO/MOM. The four noticed Inko's situation and yelled. Inko started to struggle a bit as Vilgax's foot was getting closer to her chest while the wind blew her hair. Your weapon won't help Midoriya. As you can see, I'm much stronger than in our last encounter. Now to finish you off like I wanted to all those years ago. Starting with you and also that rodent, Vilgax said before applying force to his foot, causing Inko to scream in pain as her quirk was at its limit. Izuku phased his hand into a drone's body and causes it to short-circuit before letting it down and charges towards Vilgax. No! Izuku yells before tackling Vilgax down and fell out of the ship through the hole. Izuku! The four yelled as they saw Izuku sacrificing himself to save his mom. As Izuku and Vilgax fell, Upgrade lets go of Vilgax and thanks to his blob-like body, turned himself into a makeshift parachute as Vilgax fell to the earth and crashed into it with a loud impact. Izuku glided himself back to the USJ. Well, that was easier than Upgrade started to speak before the Omnitrix changed him again and he fell to the roof of the USJ with a loud splat onto it. Ugh. Sometime. I think this watch just hates me, Izuku said as he was goop. Back on Vilgax's ship, as the ship fell to the ground. The team were fine as they finished off the drones. Nizu was typing on the control panels. Once he was done, he smirked as the ship started to shake violently. Okay, we've got to get out of here. Now! Nizu said as the team rushed back to the ship and started to fly into the ship, to leave. The two alien girls in the holding cell fell like something going on as they felt the ship shake. What's going on, AC? The mummy girl asked in fear as she held the wolf girl tightly. I don't know, but I'll protect you, the wolf girl or AC said while holding the mummy girl to her. The door to their room started to open as the mummy girl went behind the wolf girl and the wolf girl looks at the door, ready to pounce onto whoever was stupid enough to get in there. The door opens and the silver gray bounty hunt came in but his helmet was not on. He looked like Izuku when he was Diamond Head but didn't have back spikes and he had green eyes instead of yellow. He was holding his chest on the left side. It's you, one of these guys from earlier, AC said. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. You two alright? The Diamond Head looking guy said as the two nodded. Good, now come on. We need to out of here, the Diamond guy said as the girls looked at him. Why? The mummy girl asked. I think someone came and helped that boy out and the ship's about to crash. We need to get out of here before that happens. But first, I need to pay a visit to that tyrant first before we leave, the Diamond guy said. Why? AC asked as the Diamond guy narrows his eyes. Me and him have history, and it's time I finish that history. Once and for all, the Diamond guy said before turning to the girls. Come on, let's go, the Diamond guy said as AC picked up and Mummy Girl and the trio started running down the ship's halls. They run past a black ball that was on display in the hall and they passed it. When they did, one green circle appeared on the ball all of a sudden and it looked around. Back with Izuku. Goop's anti-gravity UFO caught up with him and started to collect all of the slime like it did in the battle training. The UFO went to the top of the USJ's roof and the slime followed and formed Goop's humanoid shape once he reached the top. Oh man. I'll never get used to that, Goop said while rubbing his head. He looked around the forest of UA. But at least I shook him off me, Goop said while sighing in relief, unfortunately for him. His claims were wrong when a blur jumped out of the forest below him. The blur was revealed as Vilgax who rivaled Four Arms and All Might's leaping prowess as he leaped out of the forest and all the way to Izuku and landing behind Goop. You've got to be kidding me, Goop said in disbelief. Vilgax turned around and started to walk to Goop who backed up from him. You are a slippy slime child but it's over, Vilgax said as he attempts to grab Goop. He reached of him but suddenly Goop turns into a blur and escapes Vilgax's grab. Bet you didn't see that coming. Did you? Vilgax looks behind him as XLR-8 stood behind him before zooming off. You can't hide from me forever boy, Vilgax said, not even moving to chase after Izuku. But he didn't need to as a blur was approaching him from behind at a fast pace. I wasn't planning on it. XLR*B yelled out as Vilgax looks behind him. Peek-a-doo, XLR** said before he crashes into Vilgax, creating a long ditch from the attack with dust covering the area. As the dust clears, Izuku was struggling to stay on his feet as Vilgax was still standing and didn't have a scratch on him from Izuku's move. Ugh. I'm gonna feel that tomorrow, Izuku said as he fell to his knees. For you, there is no tomorrow, Vilgax said as Izuku looked at him. Vilgax's arms started to bulge as the reddish-brown cylinders-like objects that was piercing into his arms sunk into them and they grew massive. He punches down to XLR-8, in hopes that it'll crush him but thanks to XLR-8's speed, Izuku was able to dodge the attack. As the attack missed its intended target, the force of the attack caused the roof of the USJ to implode and collapse into the building itself. Izuku attacked to dodge Vilgax who kept punching. You can't escape me, Vilgax yelled as he continued to strike Izuku, but compared to XLR-8's movements, they were slow. XLR-8 got behind and was using his claws to strike Vilgax's head, but Vilgax dodged and grabbed Izuku and then span him around before throwing Izuku into a wall. Crystals suddenly shot out of the wall where Izuku was through into as Izuku changed into Diamond Head. Special delivery. Diamond Head yelled as he continued to shoot crystal shards at Vilgax, who blocked with his arms. Vilgax went for a punch, but Diamond Head dodged it and changed tactics as he changed his hands into blades. He struck Vilgax with his blades, but the blades and his hands shattered upon impact against Vilgax's leg armor. Oh crap. I thought that would work. Diamond Head cursed as his hands grew back. When the hands grew back, Vilgax grabbed Diamond Head's face and processed into smashing him into the ground hard, which caused a massive dust cloud. When the dust cleared, Diamond Head was laying onto a crater with cracks on his skin. The Omnitrix changes him again as Vilgax ready to punch at him. Vilgax punched at him as Izuku finished changing, and Izuku closed his eyes at the horror as he saw that the punch went through him. He felt no pain from it and realized that he was Goop again and that the punch did nothing to him. Yes, sometime. I think this watch loves me. Goop yells out as he sunk into the cracks from the slam from earlier. Vilgax deflated his arms in frustration that Izuku escaped from him. Vilgax looks up and sees that his ship was descending to the ground a bit too fast and too low as it flew just over him just before it crashes in the front of the USJ. Midoriya and Rodent. I swear that I'll cough. Vilgax stopped talking when he heard someone cough. He looked around and saw someone moving a few rocks that what was the roof previously. Well, what do we have here? On the falling ship. The truck was flying down the halls of the crashed ship as it was scrapping on the walls a bit. Brace of impact. Nizu yelled as the ship go through a few walls as it passes the black ball, and the force of the crash caused it to wobble around before falling to the ground, and the container of it broke as a blob of black with green lines on it that looked like circuity shook around a bit before running off somewhere. The ship crash out of the as they fall to the ground due to the damage it sustained. A slime came out of the USJ via a pile line as it forms into a humanoid shape. Don't switch on me now, Goop said as he looks around for any sign of danger, but his eyes go wide when he saw the crashed ship. Oh no, Goop said as he flew to the crash site. At the crash site, the ship was on the ground, smoking from the damages that it took from its ramming as the occupants were in there. Nizu had his head against the steering wheel as he twitched before getting up. Is everyone all right? Nizu asked as the ladies groaned in pain and discomfort of the crash landing. I'm fine, Lucy said. I've been in worst crashes, Inko said while rubbing her head. Maybe I should have stayed behind, Uraraka said, feeling a bit sick due to her quirk. The four hear an explosion behind them. Izuku, Nizu said, but it wasn't. A short time later, Goop showed up to the site and he saw the ship in its damaged site as the windows and wings were damaged and broke. Mom? Lucy? Mr. Nizu? Achiko? Goop said out loud in hopes to hear them. He went behind the ship, but just to see. No, Goop said in fear, shock, and anger. He saw that Nizu was on the ground, bleeding from the chest. Lucy was tied to one of the broken tree, while sporting a few bruises, and Vilgax was standing there, holding an unconscious Achiko in his left hand, an injured Inko in his hand one. But he had a new guest with him. He had Jiru with him as she looked scared. Goop stood there in shock before he started to change into Wildmutt. Raw. If Wildmutt had eyes, you could see that he was mad. It's your choose. You or them, Vilgax said. Our hero knew that he'd kill them just to get him. Wildmutt lower his head showing that he surrendered. Vilgax walks to Izuku as he drops Uraraka to the ground as he taps the faceplate of the Omnitrix, and Izuku was back to normal. How noble, Vilgax said as he picks Izuku up and starts to walk with Izuku, Inko, and Jiru back to his ship as it starts to take off. Nizu slowly gets up and sees where Vilgax is going and with who. Vilgax, no. Don't go back in there. Nizu yells out, but the tyrant ignores him and jumps back into the ship as it takes off. Foolish rodent, why would I? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Vilgax was interrupted when red lights and alarms went off. The auto-destruct launch sequence has been initiated. Vilgax yelled as he drops Izuku, Inko, and Jiru to the ground and runs to the control panel to try and stop the sequence, but the controls just short circuits. Rodent, you've been a pain in my side for too long, Vilgax said. Well, there's more for you. Vilgax turned to his left and sees a blade of green crystal cutting his cheek. Vilgax back up a bit to see who was attacking him. You, Vilgax said as he saw one of the mercs he hired glaring at him. Yeah, me, and you know why I'm here, the diamond head looking guy said. And what's that? Vilgax asked as the diamond head doppelganger made another blade. Revenge. Diamond Head's doppelganger yelled as he charges towards Vilgax and start to fight. The two girls come into the room as the two fight and see Izuku and the others on the ground. The girls ran to them. Hey, wake up, AC yelled while shaking Izuku. The shaking and yelling was waking. Huh? What's going on? Izuku asked before turning to the two alien girls. It's you two. What's going on? How'd you break out? And Izuku started asking questions but turns to see a guy who looks like Diamond Head as he was fighting Vilgax. And who's that? Izuku asked while pointing to the Diamond Head guy. He said he's one of those guys who captured you. He looks like he's a good guy, the mummy girl said. He's a good guy? Izuku thought as Vilgax grabs the Diamond Head guy's head and slams him down just like he did to Izuku earlier at the USJ, and the force of the attack caused one of the remaining machine in the room to fall on top the lookalike's body with his head only showing. Ugh. The Diamond Head guy groaned in pain as he had cracks on his face as Vilgax looks down to him. Izuku panics as he looks around and sees the pistol that his mom used. Did you honestly think that you were strong enough to fight me? Vilgax asked as the Diamond Head guy spat on his face. I know I'm not. Diamond Head look-alike said as Vilgax readies a punch. He was about to strike him on the head when a blue blast hit him and sends him flying into a wall. Vilgax get up to his knees and was about to stand when he was getting tied when binds. He turns and sees Izuku holding the pistol as the mummy girl's fingers were extended and were the binds that was holding him. But we are, Izuku said while glaring at the tyrant as AC charged forward to Vilgax and jumped. She opened her mouth and tries to bite the tyrant, but Vilgax broke out of the binds and punched AC in the face, sending her back to the heroes as Inko and Jairu started to wake up. Jairu looks around and sees Izuku standing in front of her, and she sees Vilgax. Midoriya, what's going on? Where are we and who's there? Jairu asked. I'm sorry Jairu that you got caught up in this, Izuku said as Vilgax started to walk to them. Give me the Omnitrix boy, or face the wrath of Vilgax. Vilgax said. Never. I'll never give you the watch. Izuku yelled back to the alien as Vilgax narrowed his eyes at him. Then, I'll rip it off your dead body, Vilgax said as he throws a punch at Izuku. Izuku placed his arms in front of him to try and maybe block an attack, but something strange happens. The Omnitrix starts to make an energy field that prevents Vilgax to attack them and pushes him away from them as the select will pops up and the faces spin around at a fast rate. Izuku, what's going on? Inko yells to her son. I don't know. Izuku yells as 3 new faces pop onto the select wheel. But I have an idea, Izuku said as he slides the faceplate back and slams down onto the watch and is consumed by the green light. When the light faded, a new being was standing where Izuku was and was looking at Vilgax. This being's body appeared to consisted of some type of blue energy. There were 4 spikes protruding from both of his shoulders. His arms are rather large, stretching down nearly to his feet in resting position. His arms, chest, and legs were rock-like. His eyes were green and a moss-like substance was around his neck and shoulders. This new form wore the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Izuku looked around him as he was looking at the new body. Whoa, who's this guy? Izuku asked as this was the first time he saw this guy. Vilgax darkly chuckled. Well, it would appear that the Omnitrix has granted you an unknown form. But no matter, it won't help you against me, Vilgax said as he stood in front of Izuku. I don't know what or who this guy or what he can do, but I'll stop you. Right here, right now, Izuku yelled as he stares at Vilgax. Insert epic music. Pixels, OST, Queen plus Von Lichten. We will rock you, start at 0:47. The two stood there as they stared each other down before they ran to each as they raised their fists while running towards each other. Midoriya / Vilgax. The two yelled as their fists collided with each other's, causing a shockwave. The girls were trying to push one of the mechanics off the Diamond Head guy's body. Warning. Self-destruct in T-3 minutes T-2 minutes and 59 seconds till self-destruct. It's too heavy, Inko said while pushing the fallen machine off him. Just go. Leave. This ship's about to blow up and we're too high up to jump out. Take out a device out of my belt. It'll help you get out of here, the Diamond Head look-alike said. No, we're not leaving you here to die, Inko said as they continued to push the device off. Vilgax and Izuku were still fighting as they traded blows to each other, but Vilgax threw an uppercut to Izuku, sending him flying in the air. Vilgax grabbed Izuku's leg and span him around before letting go and sending him crashing through the ship's walls. Izuku started to get up as Vilgax rushed at him to finish him off. Izuku lifted his hands up to blow the attack, but blue energy shot out of his hands and blasted Vilgax in the chest and sent him flying back to the room. Whoa! Didn't know I could do that, Izuku said while staring at his smoking blue hands. Meanwhile, the girls were still trying to push the machine off the look-alike as Vilgax flies back into the room. As Vilgax starts to get up, he sees the blaster that was used on him and then turns to the girls and the fallen alien. The girls were still at it as the machine started to move off the alien a bit. Come on. Just a little more, Jairu said as she pushed the machine. As they were doing it, a large shadow hovered over them. Jairu turned and saw Vilgax with the weapon in his claws and aiming at them. Even though this sorry excuse of a weapon is keyed onto my biosignature. I'm curious to see what would happen when it is used on another life form, Vilgax said as the weapon started to glow at the barrel. Let us find out, shall we? Vilgax said as Inko grabbed the two alien girls and shielded them with her body while the alien under the machine was struggling to get up and block the blast, and as for Jairu, she closed her eyes as Vilgax opened fire to them. They all closed their eyes and braced to what was coming. But nothing happened. Jairu opened her eyes and saw Izuku standing in front of them as smoke coursing from his chest, with a hole going through him with small rocks falling from the hole. Izuku looks over his shoulder and slimes at them, although he was breathing hard and looked like he was about to collapse to the ground. Vilgax threw the weapon out the ship's hole and started to walk to Izuku and laughed at the sight of the boy's pain. How heroic. Taking a blast for lower lifeforms despite the fact that you are going to destroy it anyway is sicking. Now to put you to an end and take what's rightful mine. Vilgax yelled as reared his fist to his back and rocketed it toward Izuku. But to his surprise, Izuku raised his right hand and caught the fist like it was nothing as blue lighting started to surge off him. Izuku looked at Vilgax and lifted his left fist and blasted the tyrant in the chest as the blast sent Vilgax out of the room and through a few walls. Izuku stood up and started to go to where Vilgax went to but turns to the others. Go. Leave. I'll stay and finish him off. Just go. Izuku said as Inko and Jairu's eyes went wide. What? Izuku. Don't do this. Please don't. I can't lose you too, Inko said. Midoriya, listen to your mom. Don't do this, that guy. This monster could kill you, Jairu said with concern in her tone. I know. But if I don't defeat him, he'll come back and get more dangerous. I have to do this, Izuku said before running out the room to finish this fight. Izuku! Inko yelled as she was about to run after him but wrapping bonded her from moving. Inko turned to see the mummy girl was holding her. Please, let me go. I need to help him. Inko yelled at the girl as she was on the verge of a breakdown. No, let him fight. Out of anyone in this planet, he's probably the only one that's strong enough to fight Vilgax. The girls all turned to see that the diamond-head-looking alien had got out of his trap and was standing. No, I can't let him fight him. He'll die. Inko yelled as tears started to fall from her eyes. I'm sorry, but if we don't leave now, we'll all die, the diamond-head-looking alien said as he pulled out a device and pressed on it as red light started to glow over them all. A black blob jumped into the light as they all disappeared from the room. Izuku ran down the path as to where Vilgax. As he looked around, he was suddenly punched in the fist and sent flying down to the ground. As Izuku stood up, he saw that Vilgax was bleeding a bit and was mad. Insolent brat. I'll destroy you and this planet, if it's the last thing I do. Vilgax roared out as he tackled Izuku and the two go through the ship's walls until they stop at a room with a large machine with energy in the middle of it. Vilgax pinned Izuku to the ground and started to punch him repeatedly in the face. First, I'll destroy you. Then I'll take the Omnitrix to use it to build my Amory and take over the universe, and finally, I'll kill Izuku Midoriya and those who stand in my way, starting with those girls from before, Vilgax said as he punches Izuku. Something inside Izuku just broke from what he just heard. As Vilgax was about to finish Izuku off, Izuku kicked him off and made Vilgax back up. Izuku got up and ran to him. Vilgax put his claw onto the metal floor and left 4 trances off it and sees Izuku rush at him with green lighting over his hands. You can insult me and try to kill me, but if you go after those who I love, I'll kill you. Izuku shouted as he started to beat down on Vilgax with a series of hard punches and uppercuts before he reeled his fist off one more punch. Let's see if you like this? Izuku yelled as green and blue lighting surged around his right fist. Izuku strikes Vilgax with the punch across the face as he put a lot of power into it. Omni Smash! Izuku yelled as the face of the new move caused Vilgax to fly across the room with a shockwave and straight to the machine in the room. When Vilgax hit the machine, it shocked him to a degree as it explodes and caused the ship to fall from the sky with explosions coming off it. Izuku stood there in the destroyed room as he times out. End music. End at 2:42. Pant it. It's over, Izuku said as he was about to leave the room and escape the ship before it blows up, but a claw hand grabs his left wrist. He looks to see Vilgax was still awake but had burns across his body. I will have the Omnitrix as I am the only one to possess it. Vilgax yells as he tries to rip Izuku's arm off. As he attempts to do it, Izuku screams in pain from his arm being pulled as the Omnitrix starts to release its energy in hopes to get Vilgax off Izuku. But the mad tyrant was stubborn as he wanted the watch. He starts to push through the energy feedback and he finally grabs the watch's faceplate and tries to rip it off Izuku's wrist. As he does this, light green, yellow, pink, purple, red, blue, orange, dark green and white lighting coursed off Izuku into the watch and caused a massive explosion, and in which succeeded into pushing Vilgax off Izuku and into the wall and caused a metal pile to fall onto him. Izuku was blown out of the room and near the room where he was in the front place. Whoa, what was that? Was that the watch? Or was it? Izuku asked out loud as he was cut off when he felt the ship shake violently. Insert music. Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse score. Shoulder touch. Start at 0:58. Izuku get up and starts to run to the hole at the room as he looks at the Omnitrix and saw that it turned from red to green. Please, give me someone who can fly, Izuku begged as he activated the watch as he was about to jump out of the ship. On the ground at the USJ, Inko and the group from Vilgax's space appeared in front of the destroyed facility. Inko, the group turns to see Nizu, Lucy, Uraraka and the others were coming to them. Inko, what's going on? What happened? Where's Izuku? Nizu asked while holding his side that was bleeding still. Izuku's fighting Vilgax by himself. Inko yelled as Nizu's eyes went wide. What? Why? Nizu asked in fear that Vilgax would kill Izuku and win. He's fighting to save us. Please, there's got to be a way to help him out. Jairu yelled in fear that Izuku would die. Okay. Let's go back to the hangar and try to... Boom! Nizu was cut off when a loud explosion went off. Everyone there looked up and saw that the ship exploded and all that remained was a cloud of black smoke and falling debris that was on fire. Most of the students there frozen in place while the teachers there bowed their heads down. They thought that Izuku didn't make it out in time and went down with the ship. Inko, Uraraka, Mina, Lucy and Momo fell to their knees when they saw the ship's remains while the mother of the boys started to cry, knowing she just lost one more person in her life. Jairu looked at the ship in a frozen state. She didn't know how to react. She was stuck. However, she noticed something glowing in the smoke, and it was coming out off the smoke and falling to them. Wait, look, Jairu yelled out. Everyone looked up and saw a blur was flying out of the smoke. They squinted their eyes to try and make was coming out of the smoke, and I saw a ball of fire falling down to them. The fire faded, and they saw Izuku was Heatlebast and was riding a board of fire to them. He rode down to the sky until he crashed down to the ground with a loud impact. End music. End at 1:55. Everyone ran to where Izuku landed, and they saw Izuku walking out of a smoking crater while holding his arm. Izuku looked up and saw everyone. Mom, we need to talk, Izuku said before collapsing to the ground. Izuku, to be continued. That's the 12th part finished. If you want to catch up on the earlier chapters, head to the playlist. Please remember to support the author. I'll be back with more soon. Thanks for being awesome.